Hello and welcome everyone. Hope you all are staying safe. This is Zofine Maksood coming to you from the American Bazaar, your trusted news source for all things immigration and expat life in America. Today we come to you with a very special segment. It has been a year since President Biden took over office in America. Now, this administration came along with a lot of promises pertaining immigration. There were a lot of hopes, there were a lot of promises made, especially because this came after what can be easily called as 4 years of tumultuous Trump presidency. So, what has really happened in 1 year? Has anything changed on the ground for visa holders in America, for immigrants, especially for work based visa holders in America? Are there any immigration reforms in sight as was promised? To answer all of these very important questions, we have with us a very special guest. Joining us all the way from Maryland is one of the topmost attorneys in America, Ms. Sheela Murthy. Ms. Sheela Murthy is recipient of several awards and accolades. She's also the founder and president of Maryland-based Murthy Law Firm, which is consistently rated as one of the top immigration firms in America. So thank you, Ms. Murthy, for your time.
Thank you so much, Zofine, for having me and for American Bazaar and always being open to all these great ideas and this wonderful discussion. And I know Asif Ismail started it with a group of like-minded visionaries, and we are so grateful for this opportunity.
Likewise, likewise. So, Ms. Murthy, we shall be talking about how this 1 year of Biden presidency has been, and especially for those on work-based visas in America, this has been a very significant change because during Trump presidency, visas were always a hot button topic. So I would like to start with the most recent first. Now, just this past Tuesday, President Biden had his first State of Union address. Now, where he talked about immigration reforms, he talked about a fairer and more efficient system. Having said that, did you feel that the work-based visa community had a reason to feel a little bit, if I may say so, shortchanged? Did you feel they had enough for them to listen? Do you think they were hoping for more?
I think the employment-based immigrants, employers and employees always hope for more, Sophie. And there's always a sense of disappointment because they feel that they contribute to taxes and contribute to the economy in a very deep and meaningful way. And, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, it doesn't seem to matter. Politicians, they have certain inbuilt values and inbuilt system of right and wrong. But I don't know that their focus is ever on a particular segment. And I don't care which president it is, unless immigration has been. And even with Trump, I mean, he never made it. He made it sound like he was going to support employment-based immigrants. But in the end, we saw him do a full 180-degree turn on that against employers and H-1B holders in particular. But with Biden, the feeling that he said was, look, we want to be a welcoming nation, but we also have to build, have a nation of laws. They are continuing a lot of the policies that were Trump-based policies and keeping people and doing the in Mexico interviews for asylees. A lot of the policies are very strict and tough. And even there have been problems with the CBP and the detention of people. Now, that's mostly in the non-employment based, but in the employment-based worlds, there certainly has been a positive interpretation in terms of H-1B petition approvals, fewer RFEs on lack of specialty occupation, on wage levels. Luckily, they just decided not to continue because there were multiple lawsuits, that whole wage level issue, where only if you were level 4 or level 3, you would have a chance of getting an H-1B approved. Thank goodness that was, that went away because the Biden administration decided not to appeal that, or not to pursue that. So in general, we've seen a positive trend. We've seen good news on the horizon. We are seeing more approvals with petitions, even the perms, the green cards, the I-140s. The USCIS mentality has changed. A few weeks ago, they changed their mission statement to include the America as a welcoming nation, but it didn't go as far as the previous. It still didn't have the magic words that it had before the Trump presidency, which is, we are a nation of immigrants. They never brought that language back, which I think is extremely important to show that, in fact, we are a nation of immigrants. And once you say that, then you have to be honest and true and recognize and embrace your own foremothers and forefathers who made this America and largely made this America. Of course, we had Native Americans for centuries before that, but at least then a lot of the people who are coming up with this racist rhetoric would hopefully embrace and not insult their own, ancestors. But we don't have 100% of that yet. So I think President Biden is sort of treading the line between wanting to show that he cares about families and immigrants. And, Kamala Harris herself is the daughter, of course, of immigrants, both from her mother's and father's side, but also to show that they're a nation of laws and we believe in laws and we don't want people crossing the border or doing things illegally or staying overboard or taking away jobs from Americans, which normally would have made perfect sense, except we're dealing in the age of the great resignation. And there are, like you said, 47 million unused jobs, people quitting jobs, people, dealing with stuff. So here you have this country where, especially in the tech field, oh my God, the demand is far outpaces the supply of workers. So opening our arms and welcoming high-tech, high-skilled workers seems to make the most sense for the American economy, for the tech industry, for our leadership, for ensuring that we welcome high-tech individuals and professionals who are in demand across the globe, not just by the United States, but Australia is now opening up a lot more. Parts of Europe are continuing to open up, Singapore, parts of Asia that have a greater need. So there's a lot going on. Biden has done some amount in the past year, but there's a lot that still needs to be done. And the one beautiful thing about life is whatever you give people, we still want more because that's human nature.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. But also, like you said about the mission statement, I have been getting the sense of feeling, the sense of sentiment that people have is that there is a lot of tokenism which may have happened and which is important, which is really important because at the time of Trump, that sort of, it actually gave way to it opened this whole door of, people started seeing immigrants in another light. But on the ground, is situation changing? A lot of people have the sentiment that while Biden is, treating perhaps a more friendly route, but are the things really changing on ground, changing the mission statement? Does it change the status of people who are stuck in a backlog? Does it change things for people who are still awaiting EADs for a year or so? So how does this really go on to help people in the actual sense of the word?
I don't believe mission statements and vision statements are mere words on a wall or mere words. I believe that shows the mentality and the thinking of the top people at the leadership. So if I have a bad attitude, my staff is likely to have a bad attitude. And so when the president of the country, in the prior case of the prior president Trump, when he would attack and say, let's kick everybody out, let's get America back to Americans, make America great again, the words sound great, but they're just so hollow and so almost, unprofessional, unethical in some sense of the word, because it basically, it was a slap on the wrist for those who believe that America is great, partially because we're a nation of immigrants and we embrace and welcome people from all over the world to bring the best and brightest to our shores. With Biden, although with the President Biden and the Biden administration, I think there was a lot of backpedaling to do, a lot of mess to clean up, a lot to do. And he wants to come across as cleaning up some of the mess, of backpedaling, of making things better. But yes, you're right. For somebody whose EAD has not been approved for a year because those started in the Trump administration, it's continuing. That's why Congress in September of 2021 passed the law requiring expedited processing, premium processing for certain EADs. Now, the Office of Regulatory Affairs has recently released, and it's going to be published in the Federal Register. We don't have the exact date, but things are moving. It's not moving as fast as we want, but one of the complaints of the USCIS, Zofine, has been that we don't have enough money and we don't have enough manpower, human power, to process the tens of tens of thousands of applications that got caught up, especially since October of 2020 for a year and 4 months now, because of the unexpected forward movement of priority dates. So, on the one hand, I feel like saying, why should we give you more money to do a more incompetent job and do nothing to help our clients? Because all the time we see fees raised, cost increasing, but no benefits to our clients. Employers suffer, employees suffer, delays in processing EADs. People who had jobs are losing it because even the 180-day grace period is getting over before the EAD is approved. Yeah. But they are starting to approve. We're seeing a few H1s where the H1 and the H4 file together under premium. They're approving H4 and the EAD together. Not in millions of them, but they're starting. Same thing. They're doing the newer cases that are being filed. Now they're moving the EADs much faster. They're trying to catch up. So, for those who are waiting and who are upset, I understand it. It makes sense. But in reality, things are definitely better than they were 2 years ago or 4 years ago, when all we could see was darkness, doom and gloom on the horizon.
Mm-hmm. Well, right. And on that note, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, the green card backlog. Now, I know there was a lot of discussion last year also about green card wastage. Now, but this year too, according to UScis, it has noted that the US government is bound to actually process more employment-based green cards than usual. In fact, according to USCIS statement, we may be looking at an overall employment-based annual limit, which is more than double the fiscal limit for the year 2022, which is a great number, which is twice as high as usual. Now, this is all, of course, because of the unused family-sponsored visa numbers in 2021, thanks to the pandemic, which changed all of our lives. But do you think this would help just a little bit? I know last time there was a lot of hue and cry about green card wastage, but if I'm trying to be the devil's advocate here and talk about, okay, there was a wastage of green card, but there were still a bigger number of green cards that were still processed, more than what were expected to. So what would you say about that? Do you feel somewhere the community also has to realize that things may be moving in some direction? Or do you think, what do you think would happen to this, this more than usual number that we may be seeing in 2022?
So it is a fact, according to both the US Department of State and the USCIS, that we will have, instead of 140,000 employment-based immigrant visa numbers, we are going to have close to 280,000, which is about double of what we normally get. So it's actually right, either more or less, depending on the exact number. And just point of clarification, Zofine, it's not fiscal year 22, it's fiscal year 23, because it starts October 1st of 2022 through September 30th of 2023 that we're talking about. So it's called fiscal year 2023, both for the H1 petitions and in this coming year, which I think you're talking also about fiscal year 2022, which is still September 30th of 2022 for this year, and potentially also if there's unused visa numbers because of the unused family-based cases across the globe, because most of the Department of State's US consulates and embassies around the world have either been closed completely or very, slim processing a few cases of emergency visas. And that's why we have all this unused immigrant visa numbers in the family-based case, which gets spilled over into the employment-based category. So that's 100% true that we do have all of these unused numbers. The employment-based cases should move forward. Of course, we're seeing EB2 India moving forward. So EB2 is expected, as has always been traditionally the case, to move forward. And EB3 is likely to get backlogged because a lot of people did the downgrade petitions back in October and November of 2020. So that's going to potentially cause backlogs, which is why now people are trying to interfile and try to upgrade back from the EB3, from the regular to the downgrade back to the upgrade. And USCIS on January 21st of 2022 said, please don't file another 485. Please don't add more work to our workload. Just do it as a supplement J and interfiling, and bring it to our attention that you're going back to the EB2 job. According to the USCIS policy manual, they're supposed to go back to using whichever priority date is current, irrespective of whether you ask for a downgrade, upgrade, or whatever, right? The UScis is allowed to and is supposed to approve the 485 based on any I-140 petition where the final action date is current. They're supposed to approve it. And we know that yesterday in the State of the Union on March 1st, 2022, where President Joseph R. Biden gave his State of the Union talk and talked about immigrants and immigration being important, and immigration, where we're going to focus on coming up with a fair system where both parties can agree on it. But like we always know, the devil is in the details. And we know that fundamentally and philosophically, there is a difference in how people look at immigrants and immigration. Genuinely, people feel that immigrants and immigration take away jobs from Americans, even when you see the statistics, the data, the resignations. We talk about the great resignations. We know all this, but there are people, I don't know if it's xenophobia, I don't know if it's racism, I don't know if they're sticking their head in the sand, why somebody would say, when there is such a dearth of professionals and vacant positions in the United States, that we would be afraid of high-skilled, highly professional workers taking away any jobs when there are millions, billions, tens of millions of positions that have not been filled in every possible, from the less skilled to the highly skilled, but particularly in the high-tech skills. So it's baffling.
So, I feel, Sheela, this could particularly also be because, and let's talk about an average American. An average American does not know about, this whole huge gap. In fact, I've had so many people coming to me and talking about how their American colleagues have absolutely no idea about how the visa backlog works, how it affects them. So what I would ask here is the community is doing a lot to raise awareness. There is a huge dialogue going on in social media always. There have been protests, there have been peace marches, people are writing to their senators, people are, calling the Congress. But do you feel at the community level, the immigrant community needs to do somewhat better? What is it that we can do so that an average American understands the importance of immigration, understands why it is important to get high-skilled workers here in America, understand what their contribution really is, and not just see them as perhaps job snatchers?
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying, and I think the media to a large extent has been trying to do that, and articles and books and magazines, and sometimes they say action speaks louder than words. Each of us as immigrants live a life where we show we've been creating jobs, creating businesses, contributing to the economy. We've given a lot to this country. We've also benefited a lot, but we've given so much. And so when people say, how can we educate people? Those who choose to be educated and who choose to be enlightened and who choose to have an open mind certainly have it and appreciate it and enjoy it. Those who are determined not to get educated or enlightened will never be open to it because they, are determined not to deal with that situation. So I don't know that we can change somebody who's not ready to change their own opinion or their mind, but we are certainly available for those who are available and open to the idea of understanding and appreciating America as a nation of immigrants. And so much of Silicon Valley is, of course, people, immigrants, and so many of the businesses and the CEOs of the top companies are all like, Asians and Indians and Chinese and other countries. So nothing that we do ever makes sense if we are not open as human beings to just wanting to learn and be open to, what? I thought a certain way in life, but guess what? Everything I believed to be fundamentally true was in fact not correct. Very few people have the humility to be able to acknowledge and accept that rather than cling to our false ideals because we believe that that's what we were told either by our parents or by the elders, or that's what I think is the right way to do it, rather than can I be open and acknowledge that everything I believe may not be right or may actually need to be reconsidered based on new objective criteria and facts.
No, I absolutely hear you there. And when you say that actions speak louder than words, I mean, this can't be truer because I'm stepping a little aside from immigration to talk about this. But even if you see American mainstream entertainment today, the Indian actors are no longer taxi drivers, you know? So it reflects, it is just a ripple effect on where they are in the society. So perhaps, this is happening. You can't deny it anymore. There are Indian protagonists. So they are just a reflection of what the Indian diaspora today looks like in America. So I certainly do hear you there. Moving on, we are in the H-1B season. So let's talk about this year's lottery. What are your expectations? What are you seeing?
So obviously, first it started off with the USCIS making an error and saying that we're starting from February 21st, when in fact February 21st was President's Day, so people couldn't start accessing the information. So the website wasn't open and caused confusion because everybody was waiting after midnight to start signing up and data entering the stuff. So they started from February 22nd, last Tuesday. And in the meanwhile, of course, you have time between the 18th and I guess till the 30th or 31st, to submit your information. We're all going to be submitting the information, and then the USCIS said that very soon, before 1st of April, the registrations are, now people are completing all the information, and they will hope to announce who all can file the petitions between April, May, and June. They hope to have it select enough people to do it. But last year, for the first time, in calendar year 2021, we had 3 lotteries. The year before, it was only 2 lotteries. And because I think people didn't know how many to expect and how many cases would get accepted and how many denied and how many would decide not to bother to continue with the process because those jobs were no longer available. To tell an employer you have to hire now in April for a starting date of October, or God knows when, after it may take 6 months or a year for that petition to get approved. I'm an employer. I run a company. I run a business. It's a law firm, but it's, at the end of the day, a business. How can I tell you a year from now who I might need 6 months or 8 months or a year from now? I know what I need today, what I needed yesterday. How can I tell you what I need, a year from now, 6 months from now, 8 months from now? So a lot of employers obviously weren't sure what was going on. The market was up and down. We've been in COVID-19 and the pandemic era. And so people aren't sure what's happening with the economy, and inflation's been going sky high, in the United States. So, we hope that it'll be well organized and well thought out. A year ago, it was much more sane. We were able to file cases, and we did not see the number of RFEs and denials that we had seen previously in the past 4 years before that, during the prior administration.
Talking about H-1B further, there were also some talks about, there were some duplicate filings last year, and there were also talks that they wanted to really stop it. So let us just talk a little about it, because I have spoken to a few people who also felt that, if the system was more fair, and so then there would have been no need for those duplicate filings really. So how do we address this,
So I think what you might be referring to, or what the questions might be referring to, has to do with related companies sometimes filing a second or third or fourth H-1 petition for their worker through a related or sister company. But that is not legally permissible, because according to the USCIS, if it's based on the same underlying project for the same person, then it is technically by some company related, connected, or even unconnected to that job. They're saying that that's not right, that it has to be, if it's a completely separate petition, completely separate underlying work, completely separate project, and completely unconnected, like a different employer, that's not a problem. But if it's going to be with somebody that is basing it on the same project and it's interrelated or related companies, then they're saying that is absolutely wrong, because you are trying to gain an unfair advantage in the H-1B filing. And when for people to think it's fair or unfair, look, it is not fair that there should be a lottery in a pure capitalist economy like the United States of America. It should be based on supply and demand. The market forces should work. And we are supposed to have a true open economy where, when you talk about the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, the GATT, or you talk about the World Trade Organization, or you talk about capitalism in America, if there is so much demand for H-1 workers, then let the market forces play out, and let's not have this artificial cap that is stifling US competition, stifling the opportunity for employers to hire the best talent, and stifling out the opportunity for workers who are ready and eager to work to be able to perform work.
Correct. And if I'm not mistaken, this year USCIS has also added a little clause, which sort of says if USCIS finds this attestation was not true and correct, then there could be a possible action. So which does not necessarily just simply says that you are not allowed to file a double petition, but in a way it can hold you responsible later on. So would you want to talk a little bit about that, this sort of new sort of direction which has been added?
So in general, what we tell people is, look, every form signed with the US government, USCIS, is signed under penalty of perjury. So it's a federal criminal offense to agree to sign something, because if you're attesting that there isn't another job, that we are only one, you can't say, well, I'm going to walk this line. We can't play those games. In certain countries and cultures, those kinds of things may work, but generally in America, it's a nation of laws. The rule of law is critical, and they don't care in general, whether you're the president, the prime minister, you're the son of a billionaire. That doesn't make any difference, or it's not supposed to make any difference in this country. If you agree to the law, then this is the law, you have to follow it. And so I don't know that people should be trying to scam the system. I don't think that's the way it works, but I know people are desperate, and when people are desperate, they do desperate things. But at any rate, I would recommend that no employer, stick their neck out for themselves or for their employees, because it's just not worth going to prison or having a criminal complaint or criminal case filed against you, because the federal government has unlimited resources, whereas most of us as human beings, even if you're very wealthy, have comparatively a finite amount of resources. So it's important to follow the rules. If you are signing something under penalty of perjury, let's make sure we are compliant. We don't file a second petition. We mean what we say. We say what we mean. Now, if there's a genuine misunderstanding and you want to challenge them or sue them or whatever with the government, that's a different issue.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Obviously, there can be no two ways about it. There have been cases in the past. So, one just wonders that how did this go along for so long, really? And is it this tab has been put now? Is it been under the scanner? Has it come under the scanner only now? Or, how did
No, they put it out 2 or 3 years ago, but they're becoming more and more strict, and they're issuing clarification because they feel, and now if they see, but by any chance, if both parties actually, they're double checking and triple checking the data even more carefully to ensure that there isn't an abuse and misuse of the system.
Also, do you think we should be talking about documented dreamers here? Because that's another pain point for the immigrant community. In fact, I would like to read out a message which I just got this morning from somebody, and this person says, and this is just to highlight the extent of the problem there is. So this young girl tells me that I have 1 year of immigration status left in the US. I have lived here since I was 5 years old. And I'm 20. I have no pathway to stay in the country permanently, let alone think about a citizenship. This is the only country I have known, and I have nowhere else to go. I have no family back in India. Where do I stand? What do I do? So what do we say to questions like these? These are documented dreamers, as they like to call themselves, and they are, they're facing a possible family separation. So has there been anything moving on that direction? I know President Biden has been talking about DACA and other things. And so where do these documented dreamers stand?
Right now, there's nothing for them, as you know, Safine. But yes, last night in the State of the Union address on March 1st of 2022, Joe Biden did mention that we will want to provide some pathway to citizenship for dreamers. And, I think most people have felt that these children really, shouldn't be sent back to a country they came from when they were 6 months old or 2 years old, and they really have no family and nobody anywhere else in the world. And this is the only country they have known as their home.
Towards the end, I'll ask you one question, Sheela. Do you think the American dream for an average Indian on a work-based visa in America still exists? Is there an American dream as we knew it? I'm saying this because there has been a huge, dialogue going on, where, people here think that, students should no longer be coming to America because what they don't know is this long struggle that awaits them here, this long line which they are in. So do you think that this American dream exists still?
So I'm an eternal optimist, right? I'm always an eternal optimist. I think the American dream not only exists, it is there for us, not just to survive, but to thrive. I think that, so what if it takes several more years? Of course, it's painful and it's very stressful, and I'm not going to belittle it because, mine just took a few years and I thought it took forever and a day, and every day was like carrying, tons of bricks on your shoulders and the wait and the delay in getting the green card approved. But at least they changed the laws so that the 6-year maximum time on H1 was extended if you're filed your perm in I-140. So now you can keep on renewing it practically indefinitely for 10, 15, 20 years. So at one point, people had to actually go back after 6 years. I remember those, and then come back 1 year later, and it disrupted the family, the children, the education, everything. So Congress changed that law. So, is there a dream? I think this is still a point of destination, the United States of America. There's still a lot that we can offer the world. I think other parts of the world are catching up, and I'm glad. Other economies are growing and thriving, like India and several other so-called, developing nations are. Their GDP growth is way more than the United States. They're not suffering some of the inflationary pressures that we are suffering in the United States. But at the end of the day, this is still the destination for most all over the world, and for good reason. And I truly believe that the greatness of America continues. I think we still have incredible opportunities. And with the right leadership, both at the federal and state level, I think that we can continue to welcome people from across the globe, welcome high-tech individuals, H-1B, L-1, O-1s, professors, teachers, engineers, doctors, all kinds of even less skilled professionals, the chefs, the cooks, the workers, the construction workers, because America needs good people. We need our fruit farmers. We need our H-2B workers. We need our crab pickers, right? We need everybody, because there's huge demand for workers, for good workers. And immigrants, I believe, are the best workers because they work hard. They believe in the greatness of America. They want to live the American dream, and they take nothing for granted. And they know that if they don't work, they don't get one free dollar, no handouts, no benefits, because they believe in themselves and their hard work. So I am a true believer in the American dream, and I really believe that everybody can and should experience it and should enjoy it. But I don't know. I agree that if it takes, they say justice delayed is justice denied. If we give excessive delay in giving somebody a green card, whether they will feel that it just wasn't worth the trouble.
So there is still a lot America has to offer, as Sheela says. On that very optimistic note, we would like to end this dialogue. Thank you so much, Sheela, for your time. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back with many more such talks very soon.
Thank you so much, Zofine, and thank you to American Bazaar, for this opportunity to share my views. I look forward to continuing to help every single person who wants to live the American dream to achieve that. Thank you very much.